dogs with guns on their heads. Yes, we've got robot dogs. We've got talking robot dogs, and we've got robot dogs with guns on their heads. We've got everything in today's show. There's a lot to get to, so let's get to it. Oh, hold on. There we go. First, we have to start with Dan McTeague, and he's one of the people saying that this whole carbon tax thing is invalidating, Justin Trudeau blinking is invalidating his whole carbon tax argument, and it's just a matter of time before this whole thing collapses around the Liberals who put this up in the first place. And he says, it's over. The rest of Canada will now demand the same compensation or treatment with natural gas and propane. Wait until next year when Trudeau's second carbon tax, clean fuel regulation, dings consumers in 2025. It'll raise fuel prices an additional 17 to 30 cents a liter in time for the federal election. And Gen X was wondering, or was worrying, saying it's only a pause. And Dan's saying, yeah, it's a little bit more than that. Here's Quick Dick McDick. And he says, I was out feeding calves and I heard this.
Calves.
Yeah.
Make some salt.
And I heard this, and it's Justin Trudeau. And his immediate response here is pretty good. And I'll just play this right here.
Why do people need time to switch to electric heat pumps? That they need a break off of heating oil from your carbon tax to do it. Because according to you and your government, you get back more than you pay with this tax. Are you admitting that that's bullshit? Because it is. I've ranted about it for years.
Now, switching to an electric heat pump from oil heating, which is very vulnerable to volatile global market prices, can save people a lot of money.
Yeah, well, you guys keep pushing wind and solar, which are completely unreliable, and then when it's cold and it's dark and there's no wind blowing, everyone's going to have to pay a fortune to try and get electricity to their heat pumps and their electric cars.
So the second part of our announcement today is that, piloting in the Atlantic, we're working with provinces to install a free heat pump for people who are making at or below median household income.
It's not free. It's not free. Nowhere on planet Earth is there anything that's free. Somewhere, somebody has to pay for the thing that you're getting. In this case, it's the government. Do you know where the government gets its money from? It's right here in your wallet. Your wallet, my wallet, everybody's wallet. We are paying for this.
And to encourage people to sign up for the change, we're providing a $250 incentive payment. That's money in your pocket right now.
If the government gives you $250, that $250 has come from somewhere that is not the government, because the government doesn't have a wallet that they're pulling out, that they've just got their own money that they're giving to you. That $250 has come from somewhere, probably in the western part of the country where we exist, where most of us heat our homes with propane or natural gas, which are not going to be a part of this 3-year pause on the carbon tax. We're just going to keep getting push-popped out here.
So there you go. And there's 4 more minutes of that video, so you can go check that out if you're interested. That's Quick Dick McDick. And he's, a very patriotic Canadian, pointing out the flaws in Justin Trudeau's idiotic plan and pointing out the idiotic idea for excluding the West and exempting the East. And it's probably going to be the West paying for this free heat pump for the East as well, creating more division, creating more animosity and dislike and upset. Here's Pierre Poilievre, and he says, last year, Trudeau voted against our motion to take his tax off home heating oil after plummeting in the polls, and minutes before my Axe the Tax rally, he panicked and promised to delay his home heating oil tax until after the election. I will keep the heat on and take the tax off, says Poilievre. And here is Sean Fraser, and he says, Nova Scotians want to be a part of the solution when it comes to fighting climate change. We're helping people move off of home heating oil, doubling its rural rebate and making it cheaper for folks to heat their homes. This is going to fight pollution and save people money. And fundamentally, I just wanted to show you the ratio on this tweet. There's 858 comments and only 387 likes and 80,000 views. So 387 likes out of 80,000 people. This is not a popular policy, not a popular policy at all. Here is Poilievre talking about this as well. Notice this was aimed at Nova Scotia, right? Sean Fraser says Nova Scotians. The reason it was aimed at Nova Scotians is because that's where Poilievre is right now doing a tour, and he had a big rally in Nova Scotia yesterday with lots of people turning out. So they're trying to damage him by undermining his message, but his message is resonating, and theirs sounds like a panicking toddler. Did toddlers panic? Not really. Here's Poilievre.
In total panic mode. After 8 years of telling Canadians they had to pay higher carbon taxes on gas, heat, and groceries, he admitted that his carbon tax is not worth the cost of heat. Now, what caused this sudden press conference that he cobbled together on Parliament Hill with little notice? Was it because he was concerned at the 78% increase in food bank use under his watch? No. Was it because he worried that 1.9 million visits had to happen in a single month to food banks because Canadians could not feed themselves after 8 years of his leadership? No. Was it because he's worried that scurvy is making a comeback after 8 years of his government's taxes and inflationary policies? No, that didn't worry him either. It was because he was worried that he doubled the cost of housing, or that these homeless encampments are becoming common right across the country. That wasn't his concern either. What caused Justin Trudeau to freak out yesterday and hold a sudden press conference to announce that he was going to pause the carbon tax on home heating oil? The answer is that he was plummeting in the polls, and Pierre Poilievre was holding massive rallies in Liberal-held ridings to axe the tax. Justin Trudeau's not worried about the cost of living. He's worried about the cost of votes. And that's what caused his panicked flip-flop yesterday. Yesterday was the one-year anniversary that Liberal MPs, including Liberal MPs from Newfoundland and Labrador, voted to keep taxes on home heating oil. But what does this announcement really mean?
And then he says he'll delay hold on, I'll let him say it.
Well, one, Trudeau and the Liberals are still going to go ahead with a carbon tax on your gas and groceries, a tax they plan to quadruple to 61 cents a litre. Two, Justin Trudeau announced yesterday that if you re-elect him, he will put the tax back on your home heating oil. Three, he says, don't worry, he'll send you $11 more in the mail. $11.
Okay, so he's making fun of Justin Trudeau. He's rephrasing this blink by Justin Trudeau to maximize the impact for Poilievre and to make Trudeau look like more of an idiot. And he's doing it effectively. I think he's communicating well, and I think Justin Trudeau stepped in it, but he stepped in it because he's responding to being in free fall in the polls, and he had to. So here's Dan McTeague. He's responding to Steve, and Steve says, my Mitsubishi heat pump starts giving up at minus 12 Celsius. At minus 15, it's hopeless. And Dan says, as most here will recall, I yanked my heat pump as my oil furnace had to kick in most Januaries and Februaries because the heat pump was useless and electricity ran $500 extra a month to service a 2,700 square foot home. Trudeau and his climate advisors are talking nonsense about heat pumps. Heat pumps are not going to be a solution. Dan Albus says, and it goes straight to the heart of a prime minister's character when after 8 years of selling carbon pricing for all while demonizing those who dare question it as knuckle-dragging climate change deniers, he's suddenly open to poll-driven exemptions in voter regions of liberal importance. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Eh? Things just change. Blink of an eye, right? Robert says premiers demand more carbon pricing carve-outs after Trudeau climbed down. Hey, how come only 2.7% qualify? And people are calling him out for that. Here's the education minister? Jeepers creepers. The environment minister from Alberta. And she says, Minister Guilbeault, now that your government has announced a carve-out in recognition of the unique challenges facing Canadians in Eastern Canada, will you have enough fairness and respect to do the same for Albertans with the federal electricity regulations? See my full letter. And so the full letter's here. The big bolded quotes here. It says, how fair would it be for the rest of the Federation if we started carving out exceptions for provinces? We didn't do it for pricing. We worked with all provinces to ensure we had fair and equitable systems when it came to pricing, and we will do the same for clean electricity regulations. But they are doing special carve-outs. But the problem here is the carve-outs aren't what we should be fighting for. It should be a full repeal, full rollback, and a promise to never bring them back again, because they don't work, they're ineffective, and they just add to costs, right? The argument of the cutouts or the whatever it is to be included in this pause misses the point. I think that, sure, like as a starting point, we should get all the same. Everybody should be offered the same opportunity as Atlantic Canadians, right? But we should also recognize that it negatively impacts affordability, it increases food prices, it's inflationary, and it's stupid. And we should say this stupid tax is stupid, brought in by stupid people, and we should fix this stupid problem made by these stupid people, right? We should talk about it honestly. Spin Assassin says, this isn't going to work in Alberta. He's responding to Deber. Deber says, I live on Vancouver Island with very mild coastal winters. My heat pump works fine down to freezing, but struggles mightily below 0 degrees. Plan on a second heat source at temperatures below 0, wood or gas, do your homework. And Spin Assassin says, not going to work in Alberta. One day it's summer, the next winter. Heat pumps are for the days you wear spring or fall jacket. That's about 4 days a year in Alberta. Chris says, as a maritimer who will likely have his door knocked in the next few months for a free heat pump, I can tell you that many people will not take these. Some will, most won't. We mostly heat with wood, not oil. Oil is a backup. You won't convince a wood heater to use a heat pump. Yeah, it's not going to work out. It is absolutely not going to work out. Don Martin says it's flip, flop, or die as Trudeau retreats on universal carbon pricing. Panic has set in with this week's flip-flop, lifting carbon prices for heating oil until 2027, pushing the increases beyond the next election, and a doubling of the rural tax rebate. The severely rattled Liberals are chipping away at the load-bearing wall beneath their environmental platform. Yeah, one of the things that I'm wondering as well, so between now and 2027, these taxes are supposed to increase yearly, right? Every year they're supposed to tick up a little bit more. And so if they do this pause, and they say, no carbon taxes until 2027 on this heating oil, does then all of the yearly increases hit all at once? In 2027, the heating oil goes from being, 98 cents a liter to, or, $1.20 a liter or whatever it is, to $4 a liter, $5 a liter? I don't know. I'm just wondering. I don't know how it works. And I don't think the Liberals have put anything out that explains how it works, but I'm just wondering. I have no idea. Back to this. The change raises questions about the two cornerstones of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's carbon pricing policy. It suggests the cost is indeed in becoming a financial burden to the average Canadian, and by boosting the rebate, the government seems to admit it plans was not revenue neutral. I scroll down a bit. Either Trudeau doesn't understand that doubling down and watering down are not synonymous, or he's deliberately misleading Canadians. Either way, it's not a good look. So yeah, Trudeau is misleading Canadians on purpose. It goes straight to the heart of a prime minister's character when, after 8 years of selling carbon pricing for all while demonizing those who would dare question it as knuckle-dragging climate deniers, he's suddenly open to poll-driven exemptions in voter regions of Liberal importance. As commentator Chantal Hubert notes, the surprise retreat would be akin to former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney having picked up the smell of death hovering over his government, suddenly trying to save his skin by ending the GST in a bid to win the 1993 election. Mulroney, to his credit, opted to keep the GST and quit as leader the year before his Conservative Party was reduced to electoral rubble under Kim Campbell. Why is it to his credit that he kept the GST? If he knew it was unpopular enough to destroy his government, should he not have acted? Why did he not? Why did the incoming government not repeal the GST? There's a lot of questions, and to his credit, why to his credit? That needs to be fleshed out more. As far as I'm concerned, the GST is a tax that we shouldn't have. We shouldn't have to pay income tax. We shouldn't have to pay GST. We should charge foreign companies for access to the Canadian market, and that's how things get done, right? Although I'm not a money guy, there's a structure that works. The United States had that structure, and then they started an income tax because they wanted to pay for wars, and nobody questions it. Nobody questions it like our 2% inflation. Nobody questions it, right? It's very interesting. 2% inflation target. Back to this, the food professor says, regardless of what some experts claim, we still lack a complete understanding of how the carbon tax is affecting Canada's food security, and therefore pushing a carbon tax across food supply chain, pausing the carbon tax across the food supply chain is crucial at this time. So we don't understand it. We know it's bad. Look at what it's doing to affordability in Eastern Canada. Imagine that. But with food, we should pause it, says the food professor. Here we go.
The question of whether the carbon tax serves as a convenient scapegoat for the high food prices is not the right question to ask. Instead, we should inquire, is the carbon tax negatively impacting the competitiveness of our food industry? Carbon pricing undeniably holds significant weight in Canada. Nevertheless, it is imperative that we rigorously evaluate its effects on the affordability of food for Canadians and the long-term competitiveness of our industries. Unfortunately, comprehensive analysis in this regard have been lacking, and much of what we've encountered appears to be influenced by biased narratives. The efforts of our team at Dalhousie University, consisting of 10 researchers, have shed light on the scarcity of research in this area. The Bank of Canada estimated 0.15% inflation figure applies solely to the direct impact of the carbon tax on 3 products included in the CPI: gasoline, heating oil, and natural gas. This estimate does not encompass second round or pass-through effects. As a research team, we believe it is challenging to quantify how the carbon tax affects food retail prices due to the multitude of factors influencing prices, starting with consumer behavior. Our primary focus at Dal has been on industrial and wholesale prices, where we have identified noteworthy disparities between Canada and the United States. While the elimination of the carbon tax is not advisable, a temporary pause on any carbon pricing policies affecting our food supply chain should be considered until we gain a clearer understanding of their impact. We have diligently continuing our work and anticipating releasing reports soon.
So there you go. We shouldn't mess with the food supply, probably, especially after importing millions of extra people. Right? It seems like a risky business, if you ask me. Theo Fleury is responding to this. He said, remember, governments don't make money. This is the same argument that Quick Dick McDick was making at the beginning. The governments don't make money. They rob Peter to pay Paul, or in this case, they rob Mark to pay Ukraine or Israel, right? Or Palestine, but not anybody else in Canada. It's all tax money. Taking away oil and gas production and the third largest producer of it in the world isn't good business. It's suicide. Climate communism is a way to rob you of your hard-earned tax dollars and to destroy the economy to gain more power over you so that you'll rely on them. This is a deliberate and planned scheme to destroy the country to bring in global communism. Yes, anybody worth their salt, anybody talking about, anybody who wants to have Canada do the best that it can do, federally, provincially, should be talking. If I was the Premier of Ontario, I would build an Ontario pipeline from the one side of Ontario to Quebec and maybe twin it off to New Brunswick to make sure that there's a pipeline going both ways that can be hooked up to as soon as we get an east-west pipeline going across the entire country, because the goal would be to have cheap oil and gas delivered directly to the province via pipeline, Canadian oil and gas, and you set the price. You say oil and gas costs 55 cents, but we spend 75 cents for 20 cents of social spending. No taxes, no taxes because the oil and gas is necessary for Canadians to live. So you can't tax that. That's like taxing bread. No tax on that. But the 20 cents is for social spending because Canadians are conscientious and they want social spending and a social safety net. Although, you know the sign that says do not feed the animals, you don't want to make them reliant? The social safety net should not be built on like feeding people. It should be built on stimulating employment and stimulating the ability for helping people get jobs and helping people acclimatize and to sustain themselves, not somebody handing out money. Somebody saying, you need help figuring out how to earn money? No problems, we can do that. You want me to give you money? Oh, I'm sorry, we don't do that. That's not what we do here. Right? You can't just feed the animals. That's crazy talk. But we can set the circumstances so people can win easily, right? We can make it so that houses cost what one person making a decent salary can afford. We could make it so that, well, we had a society where that worked. And then these idiots came in and said, we could change the weather if you give us money. And we listened to them. Jagmeet Singh says a 78% increase in food bank use, a 30% increase in food prices, and a $3.6 billion in grocery profits. Justin Trudeau is doing nothing to confront corporate greed. Pierre Poilievre is helping provide them cover. Enough is enough. Ottawa should be working for you, not for rich CEOs. If somebody's idea is the rich CEOs are bad and I'm going to hold those rich CEOs accountable, that's not an idea. That's like a grifter. That's somebody who is good at manipulating the public, but not good at delivering a product that the public wants to consume, I think. Finding somebody to blame, finding somebody to take a pound of flesh from to, make somebody whole. You're appealing to the lowest common denominator. You're appealing to that victimhood mentality that's being pushed, et cetera, et cetera. You're not appealing to the highest ideal. You're not appealing to what we could become. You're not appealing to this. The future is going to be great because it's going to be cheap and plentiful, and you'll be able to have a family that can be easily secured because your job will pay a lot, and you'll be able to, with a single job, buy a house and be secure in that house. And there's a whole difference between this crap and actually giving people a vision. Jagmeet is lacking a vision. His only vision is tearing other people down to feed a victimhood mentality of communists that need it. It's ridiculous. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful